Hello. We are now going to introduce India into the issue of US versus China. Here is the economic size of India compared to China and the United States. Of course, the conclusion is that India's GDP is still small, but rapidly, increasing. In terms of total GDP, nominal GDP, these are the latest figures for US, China, and India. $22 trillion for US in nominal terms versus 16 trillion for China. And in the case of India, that's only 3 trillion. So 22, 16, and only 3. Even in real terms, numbers are relatively small for India. 22 trillion for US, 26 trillion China, and 10 trillion. But it's rapidly increasing in India. How about the per capita GDP? In terms of nominal GDP per capita, US has $68,000. That's number 5 in world ranking. Whereas China has only 11 or 12,000. Number ranking is 61 in the world. Strikingly low. So China is still in the middle income range in terms of per capita GDP. India's GDP is very low, 2,000, ranking 145th place in the world. However, in real terms, 68,000 for the United States, ranking is 7 in the world. China, 18,000, 19,000, ranking is 70 in the world. And then India's number is not too bad, more than 7,000. Although ranking is 122nd place, it's closer to 10,000. So India is rapidly increasing to join the middle income level, at least in real terms. See, so the soon we'll seriously compare India with China in real terms. Just for reference, in terms of number of billionaires, we have already seen the very close numbers for US and China for 2021. 724 billionaires in the States versus 626 in China plus Hong Kong's number. Then the total number here is very close to the United States as of today. Whereas India's number is 177 billionaires for 2021. That sounds like a small number, but actually that's world third largest next to US and China. And in fact, that's not a bad number, 177, because the per capita income, even in real terms, the India's per capita income is 1/10 of the US level, right? 7,000 versus 68,000. Still, the number of billionaires is 177 compared to 700. So, surprisingly, India is producing a lot of billionaires, relatively speaking. And actually, one of the richest Asian billionaire, the richest Asian billionaire is Indian, not the Chinese. Okay. Well, you see, in India, as you may know, there are a lot of rich families, extended families. somewhat like China, but in the case of China, the activities are much more individualistic or small family oriented, not a large family oriented. The probably more interesting comparison is in terms of growth rates for China and India. Here is the overall performance for the last 15 to 20 years. During the global financial crisis, that was in 2008, 2009, as we already observed, China's growth rate was very high, 9 point something. India was initially hit by the global financial crisis severely, but it recovered quickly to the 8% growth rate, which is very, very close to China actually. In fact, China and India are the only major countries which recovered quickly from the global financial crisis by 2009. And then in the following 4 or 5 years, India's growth rates were relatively high, not as high as China, but much higher than the major countries or the world average, 5, 6, 8% per year, whereas in the case of US, as we have already seen, growth rate was 1%, 2%, at most 3%. Okay? And then came this critical year, 2014, when the India started to surpass China in terms of growth rates, 7.4% growth for China, India versus 7.3% for China, 8.0 for India, 6.9 for China. So for these 5 years, recent 5 years, India's growth rates exceeded Chinese growth rates. This fact may not be well known, but these are remarkable, performance. And during this period, India has produced a lot of middle class, people and rich people, including those billionaires. Currently, India is severely hit by the COVID recession, minus 9.6, devastating, blow to the Indian economy, and it could continue for a year or two probably, but it is expected to recover. Economy is expected to recover to the 5% range of economic growth, in the next decade or so. Whereas in the case of China, at most 5 to 6%, but there are so many uncertainties surrounding Chinese economy, much more so than the Indian economy, for the reasons we have already studied. So, looks like India and China are getting closer and closer in the long term, in terms of economic performance, growth rate, and eventually the size of the economy. Most important difference between China and India is its in terms of its industrial structure. Here is the industrial structure in terms of GDP composition and labor composition. Among the three industries, agriculture, industry, and services, for each of these economies, China's GDP is divided among the three sectors, like 7% for agriculture, 41% for manufacturing, 52% services. So China is mainly industrial and service economy with very little agriculture left. Although in terms of labor, force allocation, still in India, the substantial number of people engaging in agriculture, 27%, almost one-third is in agriculture. That's the source of low per capita income compared to the other advanced nations like the United States. Whereas in India, situation is even more, apparent or even clearer regarding the role of agriculture. In terms of GDP, 16% from agriculture, but in terms of labor allocation, 42% of total labor force is still engaging in agriculture. That's why per capita income is so low in India, even compared to China. When you compare these, industries between India and China, you notice the interesting contrast. In China, manufacturing seems to be most efficient of the three industries because 41% of GDP comes out of 29% of labor force. Very efficient compared to agriculture and services. In fact, in China, service industry is relatively inefficient compared to manufacturing because 41-50 fairly close, but allocation labor is 29% versus 44%. So much smaller number of people is producing a lot of output in manufacturing in China, whereas India, that's in services where the very efficient activities are taking place. 32% of total workers is producing 50% of GDP. So in service industries, India is more efficient than China. Whereas in manufacturing, China is more efficient than India. See, in India's manufacturing is not too efficient compared to China. That means China is still a predominantly industrial country, whereas the India is mainly a services, service country, so to speak. In more concrete terms, you can see that in the most advanced sector of the economy, China, IT industry really means the hardware activity in manufacturing. Although software and other aspects of IT activities are increasing, but still hardware manufacturing in IT industry is so well known for the economy, and a lot of exports from China are of that category, in that category. Whereas in India, main activity in the industry, IT industry, is services, software services. So that corresponds to these numbers. China, hardware manufacturing, that's in this category. In India, software services, that's in that category. So in India, a lot of IT service activities in a city like Bangalore, which has a very strong connection or network with Silicon Valley in the United States and other major IT centers around the world. That's a strength. Whereas China has been developing such, network or connection, but now it's being cut off, at least from the US side or from Western side. So that should have a lot of implications in the future of IT industry in particular and the economy as a whole. In the long term, of course, we need to discuss the trends in total population, especially in the context of China versus India. Here is the kind of overview of total population projections. As we know, in the case of China, as this red curve indicates, total population in China is beginning to decline, and then it will decline from the current level 1.4 billion down to 1.3 billion in the next several decades. It's a gradual decline, but it's still significant. Whereas in India, total population will keep growing. Currently, 1.4 trillion, almost same as China, 1.4 billion, sorry. And then it's going to go up, and up to 1.65 billion in the next few decades. And as you can see, by the 2050s, by at least the mid-2050s, the difference between India and China in total population is more than 0.3 billion. That's 300 million. That's the same population as the United States as of today. So you can see the tremendous difference in the future course of economy between these two countries. And in addition, you have to consider the aging factor. In China, the active workforce will be declining faster than this total population decrease. So the fewer and fewer people are working in China, and they have to support the total population. Whereas in India, most of the increase are among young people. So in India, there will be more active labor force, the working in the economy. So this difference will have a tremendous impact in the long term. Well, we have to really consider all these factors to make a prediction or whatever regarding the Indian economy and Chinese economy.